Hey everybody, I'm excited to bring you a new canning video. Today we're going to can meatballs the safe way, and we're going to do it two ways. One's going to be in just beef broth, and the other's going to be Swedish meatballs, so in a Swedish meatball type gravy. So here's 2 pounds of very lean meat. I put in about less than a quarter cup of dehydrated onions. The thing about canning meatballs is there can be no bread and there can be no egg. So this is dried parsley. It's about a tablespoon of dried parsley. And I'm also going to add in a few shakes of Italian seasoning. So again, no bread, no eggs. And then I'm going to mix all this up. Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot pepper and salt. Salt and pepper. So I'm using less pepper and just a little more salt. So it was probably a quarter teaspoon and a half a teaspoon. So we get our flesh mitts in there. We're going to get it all mixed up. And these meatballs, oh my gosh, let me tell you, I had some and they're super good. So here's my tray. I lined it with aluminum foil, and I'm going to use a scoop so that all the meatballs are the same size. So I'm going to roll them around and put them on this wire rack that I have on top of my tray. And once I get that whole tray full, that's about the size. So they're like 1-inch meatballs. Plus, the smaller the meatballs, the more I can fit in the jar. So here they are. They're going to go in a 350-degree oven for 15 minutes. Now let's get to work on our sauce for the Swedish meatballs. So in this pan, we're going to dump in 1 can of cream and mushroom soup. Get the whole shebangy bang. Now, it needs to have a beef base or bouillon. I like the better than bouillon because it is better than bouillon. It's that paste. You've seen me use it in other videos. So I'm going to add a little bit of that, like a teaspoon of this. There it is, better than bouillon. And I'm going to put it right in that soup can. And then I'm going to add to it 3/4 of a cup of warm water. Now you can double this recipe, so it's just 3/4 cup of water for every can of soup that you use. So I got that down in the bottom there in the water, and I'm going to mix it together as best I can, and then I'm going to dump it right into the saucepan. And you can see how it colored up nicely. And we're going to add a few more things to this too to get it to flavor. What I really love about this is if you have a jar in your pantry of meatballs and gravy, Swedish meatballs and gravy, just heat up some noodles, good to go. Heat it right up. So this is Worcestershire sauce. It's really strong, so we're going to measure this out with a teaspoon. So just 1 teaspoon. It really gives it a little extra unctuousness to the sauce or the gravy. It's super good. So just mix that in good. I like to mix as I go, as we already know. So also we're going to add to this dried parsley, about a half a teaspoon or a quarter, and just a few shakes of Italian seasoning. The same thing that we use in the meatballs. Now I have to apologize. Oh, this is going to go on the stove and get to boiling up good. So it needs to come to a boil because you can't put cold into hot jars or hot into cold jars. So now we're going to work on our beef broth. And because I only had 1 small can of beef broth, we're going to really doctor this one up. So that looks like a lot, but it's only a tablespoon of better than bouillon. And to that, I'm going to add my only can of beef broth, and then I'm going to add 3 cans of water. That water is really going to help dilute the better than bouillon, and you need 3 cans of water. So once I get this mixed well, we're going to put it on the stove too and let it heat up. Now, I took 1 of these big old monster brown mushrooms, took out the stem, and I'm going to fine dice it up. And what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to put it in my Swedish meatball gravy because it always has mushrooms in it, doesn't it? If you don't like this, omit it. Don't put any extra mushrooms in there. But it's good. You don't know what you're missing. Once I get these all done, I'm going to grab that gravy off the stove that's heating up, and I'm going to put it right inside. Bam. Grab you a fistful and throw it in. Then you just stir it up and then put it back on the stove to get all heated up nice. My timer should be going off for my meatballs. And it did. And guess what? I screwed up and I didn't film it. So I filled these with meatballs and then I poured the gravy in. And then I used a plastic handle of a spatula and I stirred it all around to get all the air bubbles out. That's an important step. Just like this one. I have vinegar on a paper towel and I'm wiping the rims just in case any residue of any kind got on the outside of the jar. If that's the case, these lids I'm putting on will not make a good seal and the food will spoil. So now I'm putting the rings on and I'm just putting them on finger tight. Don't go too tight because it'll bow the lids out. Now my pressure canner, and you can see right here, I filled it up to that bottom rim. That's 1 inch of headspace, and that's how much you want in these jars. My pressure canner's on the stove. All my other jars are in there getting hot because you don't want to put hot or cold into hot. So this time I remembered ahead of time and I filmed that I filled these jars with the meatballs. So now I have to put in the beef broth that I made. The beef broth is going to make sure they stay moist and it's super flavorful. So when I go to make these, I can pour the whole thing with the broth, add a slurry to thicken it up, and you have meatballs and gravy, or I can just remove the meatballs. It doesn't matter and use them any way I want. So you can see I got them filled to about 1 inch of headspace. And I'm going to take another plastic handle here and move them around just to make sure you get all the air bubbles out, because the air bubble will have bacteria and it will cause food spoilage. We don't want that. Then I noticed the one, as you're looking at it, on the right has too much. We're just over that inch of headspace. So I'm going to take some out and put it in the other one because that one was just a little bit low. Pretty simple. And then, once again, I will use a paper towel and I will use vinegar and wipe those rims down. Make sure they're good and clean. So we're going to put the lids on, and yet again we're going to put the rings on now, and we're going to do it finger tight only. Then we're going to put them right into that pressure cooker behind me. Pressure cooking is nothing to be scared of. If you follow simple steps, you'll have success every time. So you can see I got the 2 jars of the Swedish meatballs, and now I'm putting the 2 jars of the meatballs and beef broth. But when I open it, there's going to be 6. All that leftover beef broth, I took the lid off after I filmed this, and I put it in before we started pressure canning. That was vinegar, by the way, that you saw splash in there. That, in case there's a leak of broth or gravy, it won't make the glass jars look all muddy and foggy and stuff. So, I'm going to put this in, and when that little nipple goes up, rise. Rise, damn you. That means it has good pressure, and this little valve in the background there is going to be blowing steam. You want to vent it for 10 minutes. Then you put your weight on it, which I have now done, and you bring it up to 10 pounds pressure. Now these are pints, so I'm going to do it for 85 minutes. That time is based on the altitude of where I'm pressure canning at right now. And after 85 minutes, let's zoom right on in there again. You can see that the nipple went down and it's depressurizing. Once the pressure reaches 0 and that nipple drops, then it's safe to walk over there and remove that weight. Boom. Nobody lost an arm. Now, when you unlock this lid, make sure and open it so that you lift the back side up, so all that steam doesn't go in your face. It will burn you. It's hot. So with the lid off, I let the jars stay in the pressure canner for about 5 minutes to help them cool before I removed them. So I use my fancy dancy little picker-uppers and I bring them out. They're super hot. Now I did have leakage of the gravy. That's not to worry. You have to let them sit for 24 hours anyway. They will seal up nice, and you just wash them in soapy water so they're not unpleasant to handle. So I really hope you enjoyed this video and you realize that pressure canning is not hard to do. And trust me when I say that, this is 2020, it's the 1st of July. The second wave of this corona crap is going to hit us again, so be prepared. Have some food ready that's sustainable on your shelf. I hope you all have a great day, and thanks for watching.